Hi there, and after 1300 comments on part 3 and some more Lego part deliveries, welcome to part 4 of building an upscale Lego space buggy. So firstly, as with the other 3 parts of this series, I'm going to address some of your comments. And the first one of those is about the cost of this project. And a lot of people have asked how much this is costing so far. And to be honest, I haven't added up all the parts that I've bought. I think I've placed about 10 or 11 different orders, but I haven't totaled all that up. And also I've added some parts into those orders for other projects. So not the entire total of that order will be for this project. Which then brings me on to my channel membership. I have had some kind offers of help to continue with this project. And some people have also suggested that I created a channel membership. And as of this week, when I hit 25,000 subscribers, I thought it would be a good time to start. So if anyone is interested, under every video that I now make, there'll be a small button that says join. And there's 3 levels of channel membership. The first level is minifig level, and you'll get a loyalty badge next to your name in comments and chats. And the colour of that badge changes the longer you've been a member. You'll also get to use some custom emojis which I've made and put those in your comments as well. But most of all, you'll have bragging rights that you're a member of the Minifig Jez channel. The next level is big fig level. And for that, you'll get everything in minifig level. Plus also, I'll try to do video preview images. Just before I make a video, I'll do a small image which will be only available to those members so they can see what video I'm making next. And also at big fig level, whenever I upload a video, I'll put a list of my current members in the description of the video. But then best of all, we've got mega fig level, where you'll get all the benefits of the previous levels, but you'll also get your name on a 2x4 brick. And that'll appear in the background of my introductions, my sign-offs, and anywhere else I can think to put them. And hopefully after a while I'll have a huge wall of bricks in the background here with various people's names on. And that's why Minifig Jez here is standing randomly on a brick with a name on it. And I need to say hi to Nathan Hartman, who is my very first channel member. Several people also commented that the 2x2 slope at the back is big enough to fit some sort of Easter egg inside. And if I lift the lid off, I can actually confirm that yes, it is big enough to fit in an Easter egg inside. But the best idea for an Easter egg that I got was to actually fit the original buggy inside the slope. And as you can see, if I put them up next door to each other, there is actually enough space for the buggy inside. And the best suggestion to get that buggy inside is to make the back panel opening, so if we hinge this open, then the buggy could effectively drive into the back of the giant buggy. I really like this idea. It's not something that I'm going to be able to implement before the show in a few weeks' time, but it may well be an upgrade that I do later on. Then we come to some upgrades on the air tanks. And when I built the air tanks, there was a 1x4 plate sticking out from each tank on each side, and then a 1x2 plate in front of it for that these slopes sat on. What I've done is I've replaced that 1x4 and a 1x2 with a 1x6. So now the 1x6 comes out from the air tank, and the whole thing can be taken off in one piece like this. Another suggestion that a lot of people made, which weirdly I'd already actually done between filming and uploading the video, was to strengthen the connection between the 2 tanks themselves. Now when I built the air tanks on camera, I used 1x2 oval plates, one on each side. And what I've done, I replaced those 2 with a 1x4 plate. I didn't do this initially because it is ever so slightly visible, but after handling the air tanks and making the 1x6s so the whole thing could come off together, they were fairly fragile, so I thought that 1x4, even though it's ever so slightly visible, was well worth an addition here to make them more sturdy. And when the tops are back on, you can ever so just slightly see it in the middle there, but you don't really notice it once it's back on the buggy. I've also now received that extra 4x4 round plate with a hole in the middle to raise our open stud by 1 plate, so I'm going to add that in underneath. And now that's the same height as a regular stud, so when you add the air tanks back in, it's now flush with the top of the air tank neck strap. Now inside the neck strap of the actual air tanks, you can see these 2 tiny little notches which grip onto the jumper plate, and they just help hold it in place. Now this is actually something that I had tried to do, and I tried several different solutions, and many people have come up with ideas on how I could do them, but I wanted to show on camera the problem that I've actually got. So effectively the notches should go here and here, and the best thing to do for that is to replace one of those tiles down there with a regular jumper plate. So with the air tanks and the open stud removed, I'm going to just remove one of these right angle tiles and add a jumper plate back in. And if I put the open stud back on, you can see where that will sit just inside the air tanks. Now various people suggested either a 1x1 dome piece or a 1x1 cheese slope. But the trouble with both those pieces is that they have square bases. And if we attach anything to this jumper plate which has got a square base, the open stud will no longer fit on those studs. It can't, because the corner of this plate fouls up with the circle. The only parts that'll fit next door to it are either a round plate or a round tile. But with the air tanks reattached, it really doesn't give the look that we're after, because we've got that curved edge up next to the neck strap. So the next part I thought was this D-shaped tile. So we'd have the straight edge up against the neck strap of the air tanks and then the curve around this open stud. And as you can see, I think that looks a lot better, but it does need to be raised up slightly. So what I've done is put a jumper plate on each side. I've got a 1x1 round plate underneath the two D-shaped tiles, and that raises them up ever so slightly. And then when the air tanks are back on, I think that's a pretty good representation of what the actual air tanks look like. So in the original build, I'd tried to do this, but I'd kind of given up on the idea. So thanks to all the comments which spurred me on to find a better solution. A lot of people commented that they thought the air tanks should be actually slightly longer, and I think I agree with them. So I have actually ordered 2 more of these 4x4 round bricks. They aren't here yet, but I'll add them when I get them. And then we come to more comments on, yes, the scratch on my table. Now, if you look closely as well as the scratch, there's 2 actual little dings in the table here, one here and one here, which kind of makes a nice little smiley face. So thanks to everyone who's given me comments on how I could tidy this up and make it all white again. I've had comments about using paint or Tipex. I've even had a comment using toothpaste. But the scratch is here to stay, and thanks to another commenter, he's now called Scratchy Muck Scratchface. Then I've also had an awful lot of comments about the boxes in the background here, especially this Doctor Who box. Now this was set 21304 and it was simply called Doctor Who. It wasn't around for that long. It was released on the 1st of December 2015 and it only lasted a year, and LEGO retired it at the end of December 2016. And then this leads on to a wider comment about what all these boxes are, and I can reveal that this is my huge backlog of sets which I haven't built. And then lastly, I promise you, before we actually do some building, I've had countless comments on what I'm going to do after this build. Am I going to build another upscaled set? To be honest, I hadn't planned on it, but people seem to be quite excited about the prospect that I might build another one. And if that's what people would like to see, I think I could possibly be persuaded to build another upscaled set. But the question then is, what set should I build? So at the same time that this video went live, a poll on my community page also went live with images of 3 different sets which I could potentially build. The first is another classic space set, and that is set 6801 Space Scooter. Now I had a couple of these as a kid and I absolutely loved the set. I really like the dish piece underneath the driving position and the prongs sticking out the front. Now this one's got a few more pieces than the Space Buggy, several easy parts. There's a plate, there's another steering wheel, and there's an antenna. But the parts that would give me nice challenges would be that dish piece under the driving position, those 3-way jet nozzles at the back, and also the 2x2 slope piece not being plain grey, but being a printed computer panel. Next is another Legoland set, which is 607 Mini Loader, but I chose this one because I kind of like the idea of building that workman with the vest piece on him, and I also think the bucket at the front would be a really good challenge. Then lastly we have set 644 Police Mobile Patrol, and I want to immediately say that this is not going to be the whole set. This would just be the policeman and the motorbike. I wouldn't want to build the car because even though it's at minifig scale, you can't actually put a minifigure inside it. But when I was a kid, I absolutely loved the motorbike in this set. The motorbike's actually got the same number of pieces in it as the Space Buggy has. I think it'd be really cool to build an upscaled policeman in black with that helmet on. And the challenges on this one would be, of course, those 1x1 round bricks, but most of all, attaching those single wheels below it, which would be much more of a challenge than the regular wheels on the Space Buggy. So this wouldn't be my next set of videos. It would take an awful lot of planning and a lot of parts ordering. But if you've enjoyed this series and you'd like me to do another upscaled build, go along to my community page and vote for which one of these 3 models you'd like me to build. The Space Scooter, the Mini Loader, or the motorbike from the Police Mobile Patrol. And now we come to some actual building. And I promised in the last video that the antenna would be getting an upgrade. Now I've had the parts to build the antenna, however I haven't had the delivery on the parts to adapt the base to attach it to it. So we are going to upgrade the antenna today. However, it will be resting loosely on the slope piece. It won't be attached until the next order arrives. Now UK time, I'm filming this on Wednesday evening, ready for you to all see it UK time Friday afternoon. And normally I spend Thursday evening editing. However, if these pieces arrive in time, I will try and tag a bit onto the end of this video of adapting this so the antenna will be fixed. Now I was hoping to do the steering wheel and the wheels today. However, a couple of crucial parts of wheels haven't arrived. So again, if they arrive tomorrow evening, I'll try and get that done as a late addition to the video. But for now, we're going to get definitely the steering wheel done and the antenna. So it may be a slightly shorter video than the previous ones. Now the problem with the antenna, as many many people have commented is we know this piece should be 2x2, but the part down here should actually be 4x4, the same size as we're using as our stud. But then that gives us the problem that we don't have anything 5x5 in a round brick to fit underneath that. We can't go up to 6x6 because the antenna doesn't actually touch the edges of the brick, so we need it to be slightly smaller than 6x6. So 2x2, 4x4 and 5x5 would be our ideal. Because I couldn't find anything 5x5, I went for 2x2, 3x3 and slightly bigger than 4x4 with this bucket piece. But a whole raft of you told me that this Technic wheel is about 5x5 and it handily fits a 4x4 right in the middle of it. So what we're going to do is get rid of the bucket, get rid of the 3x3 and the axle in the middle of it, and then we're going to start building our new structure. Now the reason we're going to have to adapt the 2x2 slope is that this wheel doesn't have any clearance underneath it. It's completely flush, so we need something to come through here and stick into the slope to give it some stability. But for now I'm going to start by putting an axle in the middle, and then we're going to get two 2x2 round plates and join those together. We're going to slide them onto the axle just to give us a bit of a height in the centre of that wheel piece. Next we're going to slide down one of these 4x4 round bricks, and they will click onto those two plates underneath like that, and that gives us our slight step in. Now we obviously can't use our regular 3x3 round tile to go on here because we've got a giant axle sticking out of the middle, but handily the piece we were using on the previous build is also 3x3, so if we steal that off and add it on top, then that can be lowered down, then that gives us our base of our next layer. Then we just need to slide down the 2x2 round bricks on top of the axle. So if we do that, then we've got our new antenna piece. So like I said, we can't attach it until the next order arrives, but for now we can balance it on top, and I hope you'll agree that I think that looks a lot more like the original than my previous version did. The other upgrade to the antenna is for the top, and I really like it when people point out to me pieces that I didn't know existed, and that happened to me this week. A lot of people let me know that to get rid of this open stud on the top of the aerial, I could use this quarter dome piece. Now this is a 1x1, it's a little bit taller, but it will give me a curve without the stud on top. Now it does make our antenna one whole plate taller, but I think it's still the same profile of dome as the original aerial piece, so I do quite like that. I think I will keep these on here. Now my personal favourite piece is the air tanks. I really like designing and building that part, and that's mainly because I tried to build the steering wheel several times in Bricklink Studio and I could never get it quite right, which is why I said in the previous video that I actually resorted to using someone else's design. And that's a guy who's called Briquoleur, and I'll put a link to his Rebrickable page in the description below. And even though he sells instructions for this part, he's kindly said that he doesn't mind me showing you on camera how to build it. Now you might have to bear with me on this build. Normally when I do builds on my videos, I know exactly what I'm doing because I've designed it myself, but I've never done this before. I'm just following his PDF instructions. I think I've got all the parts here, so we're going to get going and see how it goes. So first of all, I've got a 1x12 and a 1x4 plate here, and then we're going to add some bricks to that. So there's a 1x10 across there and a 1x6 across the other end, and then we're going to get some more plates. Do the same on the other side with a 1x6 and a 1x10, and we've got our base. Whoa, it broke. And we've got our base for our steering wheel. Next we're going to slap two 6x6 plates on top of it. Now it's going to be nice and steady, it's not going to break again. And then we're going to add some tiles around the edges. So we're going to put some 1x3s there and there, and then some 1x4s on the ends, and two 1x6s across that front edge. Next we're going to fill in the middle with a whole load of 2x2 tiles. Now this is the first time I'm slightly nervous, as I'm on step 7 and it goes up to step 30, and it really doesn't look like I've got enough pieces here to build a steering wheel. So we're going to keep going, hope I haven't missed out any on the order, and let's just hope I've got it right. So there we've got a nice smoothed off finish. Then we're going to start building a wall up on the back here. So we're going to start with a 1x6 and then a row of 1x2 bricks with studs on their side, like that. And then above that we've got some single 1x1s but 2 bricks tall with studs on their side. And we're going to put the two stud version in the middle like that. So we're getting a whole wall of studs here. And then one of those again on each end. Next we're going to get 2 plates and a tile, and we're going to add a plate on here and then another plate and a tile on top. And we're going to get the same and add it onto the other side, and we've got a nice smoothed off top as well. Next in the middle we're going to add a 1x2 brick and a 1x2 panel. And they go on top of each other like that, and they sit in the middle. And then we're going to add a few plates on the front. So we're going to add a 2x3, that can be any colour, never going to be seen again. And then 2 1x6s down the sides like that. Then we're going to smooth off these studs on the sides with a 1x4 and a 1x3, and then the same on the other side, 1x4 tile of course, sorry, and a 1x3 on that side. Then we're going to add one of these bracket pieces just above the 2x3 plate and add a 2x4 to hold it in place. And then lastly for this step we're going to add 2 cheese wedges, one there and one there, and that's going to obviously start to give us our slight curve on our steering wheel. And if you're unfamiliar with one of these minifig steering wheels, you can see it's got a flat panel at the back, and then underneath the steering column you've got that curved piece sticking out in the middle. And to make that curve we're going to first of all use some 2x2 curved plates like this and put one on each side. Then we're going to use a 1x4 above it, and then 2 more 2x2s above that, and that gives our beautiful curve. So as you can see the steering wheel is mounted at an angle, and that's what we're going to do next. We're going to get a hinge brick like that, put the 2 parts together, then put a Technic brick on top, and then we've got a 1x2 cheese slope, and that is going to, if we angle this back ever so slightly, sit on the top like that. And then this is going to sit here. That's going to give us our angle for our steering wheel. And now I'm feeling a lot happier that I haven't forgotten to place an order for some of the parts, as the only grey piece I've got left is this 2x2 round tile, which is obviously the centre, and I've also got a whole load of black pieces. Now I've just had a sneak look ahead at his instructions, and this is absolutely a beautiful design, I must say. And Briquoleur does loads of upscaled pieces at this scale, the 6:1 scale. And several people commented that they didn't want to build a whole space buggy, but they'd love to build something upscale. So I'd thoroughly recommend going to his page, as he makes all sorts of different Lego parts in upscale at 6:1. So you can go and choose one part to build instead of a whole space buggy. But for the steering wheel, we're going to start off with this Technic piece with 3 axles on it. We're going to get a slope and put a 1x1 brick underneath it like that, and then a 1x1 plate behind it. Then that brick is going to slide onto one of those axles, and then you build 2 more of those and put them on the other 2 axles. Then to start holding that together, we've got another one of these Technic plates with the axle hole in the middle, which we were using on the antenna. And we've also got a 2 stud long axle with a pin on the end. We're going to place the axle through the hole, then that's going to go down between those 3 pieces into the triple axle that we started with. Now all these black parts are really difficult to show up on camera, so I'm going to try and get the light to reflect off so you can see what I'm doing. But we've turned this piece over now. What we're going to do is we're going to get a 2x2 round plate and that grey tile, which is going to go in the centre of our steering wheel, put them on top of each other and place them in the centre of these pieces like that. Like that. And then a brilliant part of the design, to get that black ring around that centre, what we're going to use is a rubber tyre. Now it says in the instructions, tip, flip the tyre inside out so the threads are on the inside for a smooth outer effect. So I presume that's what we do. We just turn that inside out, and then yes, it gives us a smooth effect. I'm going to try and wiggle that over the top of that 2x2 tile. Oh yeah, it does fit on quite nicely. Oh yeah, that looks pretty good. And then the basis of the steering wheel are these 4x4 quarter circle tiles. So what we're going to do, first of all, get one of these bracket pieces and put a 1x1 plate on top of it like that, and then a 1x1 tile next door to it. Then underneath another 1x1 plate like that, and then that is going to stick onto our tile as long as I can get the orientation right. So it's got to go that way round and in that stud there. That looks like the instructions. Let's build the other ones and see how we get on. So now we've got 2 of those, and we're going to attach them to the centre of the steering wheel. So the hole in that bracket piece that we started with is going to sit on top of the stud of the 1x2 slope. So if you click that one onto this stud like that, we've got our first outer part, and then click the other one onto the one next door like that. We just need to marry them up so they look a little bit tidier. And we've got the start of our steering wheel. Next we're going to join those tiles together using some 1x2 curved plates and some 1x1 round plates. So we're going to join 4 of these 1x2s together. We're going to put one on top of there like that with 2 underneath it, and then join them together again with 1 underneath that. Then we're going to fill up the holes with 1x1 round plates. So put 1 on top there, 1 on top on this side, 1 underneath. Oh, it came off, sorry. And then 1 underneath the other side. And then we've got a little piece that we can actually articulate, and then that'll be able to attach to the curved tiles. So the 1x2 plate in the middle is going to join the 2 together, and then we're going to have to angle those 1x1s round until they locate in the other 2 holes. So we put that one in the middle to curve that one round, and that one round that way too. And then that is holding those 2 tiles together. Just angle them slightly so they make a nicer curve, and then we've got the other half to do. Now to join the other 2 halves of the steering wheel together, we're going to use one of these cool 1x3 jumper plates, and we're going to put another one of those brackets on underneath, and then a 1x1 plate next to it like that, and then again fill the gaps with 1x1 round plates like that. Oh, I've got 2 on there, sorry. Get the second one off, there we go. And then we're going to join those 2 tiles together. So 1 on that side and 1 on the other side. And there's the bottom half of our steering wheel. And then because that's a jumper plate, we've now got that hole in the middle, so that's going to sit on the other slope and hopefully join up this all up together, and then we'll give it some more strength underneath. This is actually still a very fragile build. Once it's all together, it'll be a lot more sturdy, but for now it is difficult to put parts together. But persevere, because it is an awesome build and you get a great finished product. Next we're going to make 2 slightly longer versions of what we've made before. So here's 4 1x2 curved plates, and with the empty gap on the end we're going to add a 1x1 plate, and then another one of the 1x2s on top like that. Then next door to it we're going to have a 1x2 curved tile, so exactly the same shape but a tile, so it doesn't have any studs on it, and that goes on like that. And next to that, whoop, nearly dropped it, a 1x1 round tile. Then we've got 1 gap underneath here, and that's going to have a 1x1 round plate. We're going to build 2 of those, and we're going to add them underneath. So the 2 studs on the round plate are going to join these 2 curved tiles together here, and then the tiles will just sit on the underneath of the other tile. They're not going to provide any structure. It doesn't need anything holding together, just more of the curved shape. So we can curve them round. Then we're going to add another one on the other side. So here's an identical piece that I've built, and again those 2 studs are going to join those 2 curved tiles together. So we're going to click those on this side like that, and then bend the other pieces round to give it that curved effect. And then there is our steering wheel, and that is a really, really great build. Then all that remains is that Technic pin will sit in this Technic brick. So if we marry those 2 pieces up, we've got our upscale steering wheel, and I think you will have to agree that that is an absolutely superb build. Briquoleur, thank you so much for letting me use your design in my build. Everything, like I said in my previous video, everything that I came up with was greatly inferior to this, so thank you so much. So another momentous occasion for this build. We've got our pieces that we built in part 3. We've got our steering wheel, and we're going to marry those 2 pieces up by clicking them down here, and that looks absolutely superb. So like I said, it is now late on Wednesday evening for me. I still need to edit this tomorrow night on Thursday, but I'm keeping my fingers crossed that we're going to get a couple of deliveries tomorrow, and I can at least add another piece to this build. However, what I can do is give you a sneak preview into the blaster piece. Now, we talked last week about using curved cylinder pieces and filling them with 1x1 round bricks. Well, I can show you that that is what I have done. I bought 2 of those curved cylinders. I filled it up with an awful lot of the round bricks, and a lot of people commented saying it was a waste of pieces and I need to put something larger in the middle to sort of pad it out so I don't fill it up entirely with curved bricks. And actually they packed in so tight there isn't anything in the middle. You can see there is a hole right down the middle there. I'll take the plate off the bottom. If I can hold it together, it will spring apart if I let it. It sprung apart. But there you can see they've now all gone into the middle. So I'll just rearrange those off camera. We'll see you in a minute. Right, crisis averted. I did that off camera because it's an incredibly fiddly process of filling up the bottom half with the bricks and then filling the other half with bricks, sliding a piece of cardboard over the top of it, putting the two together, then sliding the piece of cardboard out and squeezing it together very tight. And then the three pieces that were in the middle, so the three columns, just drop out because they're not being held in by anything else. These all are being now held in by friction, so they don't move at all, even though they are slightly sort of less tall than the cylinder piece, but they don't move. They're just being held together completely by friction, which is why I keep this plate on the bottom and that dome on the top. So I'm going to replace that before this whole thing pops apart again. So with that plate on the bottom, it holds together a lot better. You can see it does slightly open up at the top, but once I get the dome piece on, it holds that together as well. But it's a lot more sturdy once you've got a plate on the bottom. And we're obviously going to put a round 8x8 plate, but all the other parts of the blaster are also coming in order, which should come tomorrow morning. So I'm really hoping that I can tag a little bit onto the end of this video and we can make the blaster tomorrow. So with our newly made awesome looking steering wheel, this is Wednesday evening Jez signing off, and we'll see what Thursday brings. And this is now Thursday afternoon Jez, and 2 packages have arrived. So I've unpacked all the parts and I've got everything here I need to firstly amend the top of the 2x2 slope so I can attach the antenna, and secondly make the blaster. So first of all we're going to update the top of the 2x2 slope, and effectively we're going to rebuild this. So instead of having 4 studs there, there's going to be a hole there, and that will fit in the Technic bricks with the axle hole through the middle, which we had before. And instead of sitting on top like they did when they were sitting underneath the bucket, they're going to therefore sit underneath this plate. So I'm going to start with a 2x12 and we're going to add a 6x6 on this side of it like that. And then we're going to add a 2x6 there and there, fill up the gap with a 2x2, and then underneath we're going to add a 2x2 on this side and a 2x8 on that side. And then we need to steal the 1x12 off this piece and put that here. And then fill in that last gap with a 2x2, and then effectively we've got our 1x2 plate with a hole ready for those bricks. Then the next job is to transfer all these slopes, all the tiles on the top and the stud onto our new plate. And with that done, our new plate looks like this with our little hole in the middle. And now because the Technic wheel that we're using for the bottom of our antenna has absolutely no clearance underneath it, when this goes on here, we're going to have to mount these bricks level and flush with the layer below these tiles. So I'm going to build a small structure around this and put a plate over the bottom just to hold it in place. So I've got some lovely pink bricks here that I don't currently need, and I'm going to put a 1x4 on this side, and I'm going to put 2 1x4s on the other side, so one there and one on top of it. And then to hold all that together, I'm going to put a 4x4 plate underneath, and then those bricks are sitting one plate layer below the tiles. Now a lot of people commented that they were extremely concerned about the fragility of this antenna, so I have got a longer axle. It's not going to go up the full height, it's fairly stable as it is, but I'm going to put that down through here, and that's going to be the basis of our antenna. Then we're going to put the Technic wheel over the top, and that doesn't attach to anything because there's no studs underneath. Then the structure we built earlier with those 2 plates and then the 4x4 plate, and that can all slide down too. Now that is now holding the Technic wheel in place. Then finally all we need to do is add our antenna, and then we've got a fairly sturdy antenna attached to the top of our plate. And then with the stud back on the other side, all we need to do is reattach that whole piece to the top of the 2x2 slope. We've got our finished antenna and slope. And if we have a close-up look of the original Buggy, you can see that the base of the antenna really doesn't go to the edges of that brick on top. So definitely going 5x5 is the way to go rather than 6x6. And then looking at the upscale version, you can see the same applies here. It doesn't quite go to the edges, so 5x5 is absolutely perfect. So with the green cylinder I showed you earlier on and these few parts here, we're now going to build the blaster. So just as a reminder, this is the part we're building, and we're going to start at this end, work our way along to the green, and then add the handle afterwards. So to give it a smooth end, we're going to start off by using one of these boat studs, which is a 2x2 round tile with a slightly curved end to it. So we're going to take one of those, then we're going to add 2 regular plates to it, like that, and then we're going to add a brick on top of that, and then on top of that we're going to add a 2x2 tile, but it's one of the ones with the open studs on top, and that's because we've got some dish pieces and that stud will happily marry up with that. Then we can stack these dish pieces and give the handle that ridged effect, which I'll stack these up and I'll show you in a second. If we add those like that, you can see on the handle of here it's got these little ridges down this end. And then to finish off the thin part of the handle, we've got 3 regular 2x2 round bricks, so that's 1, 2, 3, like that. But the fourth one's exactly the same part, but it's got a Technic axle hole through the middle of it, and then that's going to allow us to add the part of the handle which sticks down. And then just before we get a lot wider, we add 1 more 2x2 brick, and that's the narrow end of the blaster completed. Then as we get wider, ready for that green end, we're going to stick a large axle down the middle of that just to give it some stability. And then first of all, we're going to add a plate onto that, which is 6x6 plate, and around that, just to give it a little bit more decorative feel, we're going to add some macaroni tiles around the outside, like that, gives it a smooth finish. And then we're going to put our large wheel on there. This is a large Technic wheel, and then the same piece we had at the bottom of the antenna on there. Then we're going to finish up with another large plate, like that. Now the axle is secure inside this brick down here, but everything else is still fairly loose. But if we get one of these Technic pieces here, we can slide that over the axle, and that's actually got some slight cutouts which will sit between the studs on that plate, and it'll hold everything in place. Then for the lower part of the handle, we've got a 2x2 round tile here with a hole in the middle. It's not like the one in the previous version with the studs raised up, it's just an empty hole. And then we're going to add 3 bricks underneath that, and that gives us our lower part. And then to hold that onto the upper part, we've got a Technic axle. It's a 2 stud long axle on this end, and it's got a Technic pin on the other. So we're going to put the axle down into those bricks there, which will hold that nicely and firm. And then the other part, the Technic pin, will click into that brick up here, and those 2 pieces will be held together. And then finally we need to add on that beautiful green cylinder onto the end. What I've done, I've got a 4x4 round plate on there holding this end together, and I'm going to release the one off the bottom and hold it together tightly, and then hopefully this will click onto this plate here and hold it together at the bottom. Oh, the end of the blaster's fallen off, but at least the cylinder hasn't opened up. And then if we quickly reattach that, we've got our finished blaster. And if we compare the original with the upscale version, I'm pretty pleased with how that has turned out. Now traditionally the blaster obviously sits in that open stud on the jumper plate at the front, in between the air tanks. So we're just going to put this here for now, and will it? Yes, no way, that does actually fit there. Lots of people would told me I'd obviously need to take that tile out there and put studs in there so this could affix, but I think with the height of that open stud, it's a whole brick height, it's just about balancing in there. I may well stick some studs in there anyway just to give it a little bit of extra stability. But there we have our blaster. Let's turn it around the other way so you can get the other view. The blaster in the front of our space buggy. So end of part 4, and this is where we have got up to. And now, as everyone seemed to absolutely love my black sparkly kitchen floor, I'll go and take the upscaled version inside and give you a little bit of a zoom around that. And while you're enjoying looking at the upscaled space buggy with its newly attached steering wheel and blaster and its updated air tanks and antenna, a quick reminder, if you want to support the channel, you can join Nathan Hartman and become a channel member. You just need to click the join button below this video and then choose which level of membership you'd like. Also remember to go over to my YouTube community page, and if you'd like me to do another series upscaling a Lego set, let me know which one of the 3 sets you'd like me to do. If you've liked this video, please do give it a thumbs up, and of course, please subscribe for part 5 with the wheels coming, and of course more Lego videos.